Hi, Fee Tui Win here, and welcome back to another segment of Tea with Fee. In this episode, I want to continue the dialogue shared in last week's Tea with Fee on the subject of obsession. So if you have not made yourself your favorite mug of tea, pause the video, go make your tea, come back, snuggle up, relax, and allow us about 5 minutes to continue the exploration of this very, very important topic together. So before I continue on with the topic, I want to share that a client came in this week and said, Fee, I did not hear the ending of that story. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the punchline. And so if he didn't hear it, maybe some of y'all didn't hear it either. So I want to share the ending of the story again and then continue on with the discussion. So the old monk looks at the young monk and says, I let that young lady down at the riverbank miles ago. Why are you still carrying her? Pointing out to the burdensome nature of obsession, carrying something that is not in our physical reality. Two things I want to share with regards to obsession. One, obsession tends to occur when we are strongly attached to something, whether it be an idea, whether it be a thing, or whether it be a person. We're strongly attached to it, and so we tend to obsess about it. For example, let's say you have an argument with someone, and it could be someone that you don't like, so you're not attached to the person, but the argument is about something that you feel really strongly about, an idea that you have, that you know that you're absolutely right, and the other person is just so dead wrong. And because of that strong attachment to your idea, you replay that argument in your head over and over again, often even getting angry while you replay that argument in your head and obsessing about it, because you feel so strongly that you're right and the other person is wrong. And so you carry that burden with you unnecessarily, even though that person is not even in your physical space anymore. Just like the young monk, he held so strongly to the idea of not touching the opposite sex because it was one of the precepts that he had to practice, that seeing his teacher carry that young lady across the river was so difficult for him, because he had such a strong value about not touching the opposite sex. And yes, while values are important guidelines for us to live our lives, to show up with integrity and fairness, and to treat people properly, sometimes in certain situations, we need to respond to the situation at hand and let go of the rigidity of the guidelines that are meant to help us live life. And that's what the older monks did. For him, it was more important to be compassionate towards the young lady and help her cross the river safely than to live by the rigidity of not touching the opposite sex. Because really it comes back to our intention, right? But for the young monk, the rigidity, the attachment to the idea was so strong that he was not able to let it go and obsessed about it. The second thing about obsession is, so the opposite of attachment is having strong aversion to something. Having such a strong aversion towards an idea, a thing, or a person that we end up carrying that person or that thing or that idea with us. And so by having the strong attachment to the guideline of not touching the opposite sex, the young monk had a strong aversion to what his teacher did, which was to carry that young lady across. And so in our lives, we want to be careful and look at, what is it that I'm so strongly attached to that I'm carrying unnecessary burdens? What is it that I have such a strong aversion with that I'm also carrying unnecessary burdens? And one thing you can do is, when you find yourself obsessing about something, imagine that obsession like the young lady on your back, and literally put her down. Let her go from your back. Put her down so that you can continue your journey with more lightness.